if you're being told, you're being sold.
What I'd like to take it from there is, let's say that you have that awareness and you start to see some stuff and you kind of feel like, all right, I'm ready to slap the table on this. I want to take this seriously. I'm ready to make the commitment. Let's do this. My number one advice to folks that are in earnest getting ready to get started is that when you're selecting the right agent, you have to triangulate the truth. Okay, let me unpack what I mean by that. You know, in the olden days, right, Dave, this is probably more your time, right? Horse and carriage, the plague, you know, these types of things, right? You know, the War of 1812. Back in those days, you didn't have the interwebs, right? All you had was your Uncle John who did real estate, or your mom did something, so she got you in touch with. It was all referral based, right? So I'm not discounting that. That's an amazing place to start. Man, if you can get a referral from someone you trust, I think we can all agree across almost any category, real estate atop that list, that's the place to start. Now, the beauty of it, though, is that's not the place to finish, okay? And let me unpack that a little bit. So, you know, what you might not know, there's kind of a, if you had some special goggles that I sent you through the computer screen right now and you're able to put it on, you could look at the general population. Everybody is broken up into three not so equal categories. It's called 70, 15, 15. What that basically means is 15% of the people out there are going to refer you to something, whether they actually even thought it was their best option or not. They're just like beholden to this idea that they're the referral connectors of this world. And they're just like, oh, you want a plumber? Go call Mark. Oh, you want this, that. That's just who they are, right? Maybe there might even not even be the best option. It's just who they are. Conversely, you got 15% of the people that are never going to refer you under any situation at all. That's kind of more like a Jeremy.
Hey, you got to show up.
Hold for no applause. Okay, no, that's just people who are like, hey, man, they're just kind of the curmudgeons. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to refer you. They just kind of whole hog, right? And then you got the 70%. This is where, of course, most people lie. It's like, hey, you do a good job. You finish, you show up, you do what you say you're going to do, you know, you treat me well, and then you ask in an intelligent way to say, hey, I'm actually, you know, would love it if you got introduced me to friends, families, coworkers, neighbors, where you think might want the same experience. Those are people that will, but it's a meritocracy, right? So you got to be careful who you're talking to when you ask for that referral. Are they the curmudgeon? Are they the Pollyannas? Or did they actually have a legitimate experience? If they are in that 70% category, the follow-up question to ask them, a little hack, is what was the most memorable thing that happened while you guys worked together? And that's a beautiful acid test, because what that'll do is it'll kind of take you a little peeksy-poo into the level that that person was playing at. And if they truly had a memorable experience, they'll be able to recall it instantly, because that stuff gets locked into the myelin. Right? They'll be able to call, and then you can kind of see your own experience of working with them through that story. It's a really deadly way of kind of thinking about it. We'll call that a hack. And another kind of cool thing that we play around with here at the Greenhouse Group is, hey, well, how were they a hero to you? Right? Because we hold that hero status in really high regard. And if they actually weren't a hero to them, you'll be able to acid test that pretty quickly too. And then you can kind of do your own little squirrel calculus. Like, okay, these guys were either exceptional or they were just all right. They kind of got what they paid for. That's how you can acid test whether referral is actually your best option. But that's only one side of that truth. You then need to go onto the interwebs, pull up all the review sites you can get your hands on. Some of the review sites are better than others, right? I'm not going to drop names here. Some of them, you can literally just, I could go on and say, hey, Jeremy was the best, and I never even used him. There's no efficacy standard whatsoever. And again, I don't want to play the game of throwing someone under the bus and highlighting others, because that's not how we roll. But just know that that's how some of them work. Conversely, others are super stringent. Their algorithms are super tight. You could have been somebody who worked with Jeremy. I could have wrote a review, but just because I'm not that active, it actually filters me and pulls me off. Those are the ones you want to pay attention to. The super strict algorithms, because if those guys have 5-star reviews and those are the, you know, highest rated, most reviewed out there, you know it's actually because it got put through the sausage grinder and it came out the other side and it's actually legit. So if you could unpack this a little bit, you've got the referral, great place to start. Don't end there. Acid test it. corroborate that online with some reviews. And then the third part is what I'd like to refer to as relationship. You got to meet them. You got to sit down. You got to unpack it. You got to have a huddle up. Not let's meet at the front door of the house, and if I like it, we'll sign a contract. Like, this is a relationship. It's got to have a good fit. It's got to have a good feel. You got to go and take the time to fully vet who you're going to work with before you ever get out there and start cracking cabins, so that you know that when the what hits the fan, and that's really what you're looking for, is anybody when the deal's good can do a good job, but when the what hits the fan, are they going to be the ones that are going to be there, they're going to have my back, that are going to have the capability and the capacity to be able to get me through that? So those are my 3 hacks to triangulate the truth.
Well said. I was thinking while you were talking, Jesse, that, it never goes the other direction, right? You go referral, triangulate the truth, meet up. It never goes Google search, then referral. Because the referral, if you can get that first, it's the best way to start. And it's only going to lead to a quality second step of triangulating that truth, and then as well as that first meetup. But that meetup, I think, is king. You've got it. If you're willing to do that, you've got a difference maker there. If someone's willing to meet you in person prior to you ever looking at loans, prior to ever looking at a house, if you've got 2 parties that are willing to do that, chances are it's going to be a good match.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that. I love the idea that it's a 3-step process and the culmination of the meeting. You can't hide. If you sit down with someone for an hour, you can't hide. You're not going to be, you don't know, like, there's no way you're going to get through that meeting and not know who's sitting on the other side of that table.
Right.
And that's my favorite part about it, because the truth is that you want to know who you're dealing with. What's in it for them? How do they do what they do, and why do they do it? All of those are critical questions that you won't get by filling out an application or meeting someone at the front door. And so critical for relationship. We use the word relationship, and it's not just because we happen to know our clients a long time. Relationship is because this communication, if you start with pre-approval and you count all the way through close of escrow, you could be talking to someone for 90 days or more. Or less. Hopefully less if you're not dragging your feet, but potentially, I mean, a year. So is it important to know who that person is, feel comfortable with how they work, and also know, like I said, what's in it for them? I think that's an interesting perspective. Like, how do you get paid? Like, how are you going to be looking at your money when you're protecting me? Important question.
You know what? That's some great points there, Jeremy. And I think it segues very nicely into what I think is a very important point as well, is that you want to be searching for somebody that's going to be a consultant, not a salesperson. On our license, it says real estate salesperson. But Jesse, I think you'll agree with me. The last thing that I ever would want to be seen as is a salesperson. I don't know the last time somebody's raised their hand and said, "Hey, I really wish I could have another salesperson in my life that can tell me something and drive me to buy something." So that's what comes up for me when thinking of salesperson. And with a consultant, it's we wear that sort of badge as more well defined as being a coach. You got a beginning and an end. You got a goal. So whether it's a game, a baseball game, or what have you. You got your huddle up to begin with. You set out a plan. You set up a goal, and you have certain measurable metrics along that way to get you to that goal. So that's super important. If you're going out there and somebody is in the passenger seat and slowly sneaking their foot over and pressing on the accelerator pedal, making you go faster than you want to go, or just trying to convince you into something because they're out for a commission, then that is the last person that you want on your team. And because they are only out for themselves and they don't care. I've had some clients that have walked in the office that have said, hey, listen, we came from, you know, we won't say names, Colorfin, and other places where, you know, they just felt like, yeah, you know, we met them at the house and they showed us a house, and then they, you know, want us to write an offer right there. And we were like, well, what's this crack in the sloping floor and the cracks around the window? What's that all about? Oh, don't worry about that. It's fine. So that's kind of where the salesperson, you know, if you're being told, you're being sold.
Well, I was thinking about just the access that people have to who they're working with. You know, do you have their cell phone number? Did you meet with them in person? And I know we've touched on a couple of these things, but, you know, from the lending side, if you're in the retail channel, God knows who you're talking to on a daily basis. Chances are it's going to be a different person, or the person you talk to multiple times isn't going to be able to give you the updates that you really need, because, again, they're at the beginning of the process and they're not a decision maker on any level. So to me, it's all about access. I think one thing that sets us apart is just the access that our clients have. When they meet with Craig and Jesse for the real estate consultation, that's who they met in the beginning, and that's who they talk to all throughout the process, and that's who they see at the end when they get their keys. And on the loan side, it's the same thing. You meet with Jeremy or I, and you have our cell phone numbers, and you have contact with us from day one all the way through to the end.
Yeah, continuity. I love that. So before rounding out with kind of the things we learned along the way from doing this so long, which shows us all with our little gray beard here poking out, anybody else have any things to do or things not to do that we didn't cover yet?
You know, just sort of touching briefly on what you said before, Jesse, is the point of who you're going to choose to help you along this way. And a lot of people sort of fall into that peer pressure of, you know, either you have a friend or a family member that has a real estate license, and you're like, oh, well, if I don't use them, they're going to hate me, you know, and they worry about that personal element there. But you know, if you pan back and you listen to everybody that say that, you know, buying a home is probably going to be one of the largest financial decisions that you make in your life. And one of the most important, the old analogies of like, hey, if you're going to choose a doctor, are you going to go, you know, to repair your knee? Are you going to go and use your friend or family member just because they walked right out of medical school? Or are you going to want to go to, and this analogy can be used for anything, you know, whether it's an attorney, whether it's somebody to fix your car, you know, are you going to use that person just because they got a licensed or have a little bit of time put into that particular profession? And hopefully the answer is no. You know, for me, I've had several friends and family members that have used me, but it's something that I always, primer it with like, hey, make sure that you feel comfortable with our relationship, because this is not, it's not about me earning a commission. This is about you having an exceptional experience and making sure that you feel that I'm the best to represent you. And that's what you need to seek, is that you're building a team to get you to that finish line or that goal line on time and in the best condition possible. You don't want to just be hiring people because you know them.